So it's 1967, and I'm returning from Detroit, where I'd done a gig, and I had 3 spanking $100 bills in my right-hand pocket. And I shared a cab with my partner from I don't know, somewhere or other. And I arrived in the East Village, which in those days was a real war zone. And I got to Avenue B where my building was. And I went in the lobby, and I noticed while I'd been away that all the mailboxes had been smashed, and the bulb on the ground floor was broken, but it was home. You know, it was home. So with my suitcase in my right hand and my guitar in my left hand, I started to go up to my apartment. I got to the first floor landing when I noticed above me, the guy was halfway up the stairs, bending down, ostensibly tying up his shoelaces, which was a little odd. It was 5 in the afternoon, but I was tired, and I just said, "Oh, excuse me." And as soon as I said that, the man whirled around with a knife, the biggest knife I'd ever seen at my throat, and said, "Give me your money, man." And I fell backwards down the stairs and slammed into the wall behind me. And then I shot out into the yard behind, picked up a couple of bricks to defend myself. And I waited for him to come out, and he didn't come. And then I realized why. In my panic, I dropped my guitar and my suitcase. And I rushed inside, and of course, the guitar was gone. This was the 3rd guitar. I lost another one and had one smashed. And I was devastated because the money in my pocket was supposed to go for the rent. Now I'd have to buy a guitar with it. So I went upstairs to the apartment, and I had a shower. Every moment I just got angrier and angrier. And when I got dressed again, I went back downstairs. I don't know what I was going to do, but I went back downstairs and I walked to Avenue B, which was just a madhouse. I mean, it was rush hour time. So trucks and buses and people. I mean, it was just flooded with people. And I stood there trying to figure out what to do. When I saw a cop car coming towards me, and I flagged it down. And I said to the 2 old white cops, I'd just been robbed. "Oh yeah, what did it look like?" I don't remember. I just know he had a red shirt on. "Oh, great. Get in the back." So I got in the back, and we drove up and down Avenue B and across a couple of streets and didn't see anybody. And after about 10, 15 minutes, he let me out pretty much where I got in. No sooner had the cops turned the corner when I looked across the street, and there was a guy in that red shirt. I knew it was him, and he was singing. I couldn't believe it. So I somehow made my way across the traffic right up to him, and at this point I didn't give a fuck anymore. And I said, "You stole my guitar, man." And he looked at me. I said, "You stole my guitar, I need my guitar." And he lifted up his shirt and he pulled out the knife, and it was every bit as big as I thought it was. And he said, "I got you, man." I said, "No, man, I need my guitar." "I got you, man. I need it, man. That's how I make my living." "Your living? Oh, I not take if it's your living." I said, "Well, can I get it back?" He said, yeah, we get it back." And he put the knife back into his belt, and he waded into the crowd walking down Avenue B. And I, of course, hurried along beside him. Now I could really see what he was like. We were about the same height. He was about 10 years older than I was. He had curly hair, and his face was just a beard and a big moustache, slightly darker complexion than me. And the red shirt was in bad shape, as were his trousers and the rest of it. But it was his eyes that really caught my attention, because the pupils were spinning around in the sockets like they were going to spill out into his face at any second. When we got to 7th Street, he made a left turn. Halfway up the block, he went up a flight of stairs, and he banged on a door. The door was opened, and a little bearded hippie stuck his head out and said, "Hey, Angel, what's going on?" I said, "The guitar is his." And the hippie looked at me and said, "Yeah, figures. You got the money?" "Yeah, I got it." "Okay." He disappeared. A minute or so later, the guitar came out, passed to me. I said, "And the case?" "The case, what?" As I was putting the guitar in the case, I saw out the corner of my eye Angel giving the hippie some notes. Then the hippie said, "Peace," and closed the door. I just finished latching the last clasp on the guitar case when Angel grabbed it. He said, "You give me money, I'll give you a guitar." Well, I didn't want to tell him I had $300 bills, three $100 bills in my pocket. So I said, "I don't have it with me, but I know where I can get it." "All yeah, now, we'll get it now." "All right." I said, "Follow me." So I went down the stairs and started walking to St. Mark's Place, which is where my partner lived. As we'd gone about 100 yards, Angel stopped and he said, held up the guitar and he said, "Why you not fixed?" I said, "Fix? What are you talking about?" And he rattled the handle of the guitar case so that the whole case shook. "Man, don't do that, don't do that." He said, "It's broke, it break, fix." The handle had come a little bit loose and I hadn't bothered to fix it. I said, "Oh man, that's a good idea, I'll fix the case, yeah." And he said, "Why you not put name? You put name, I don't take." "Okay, all right, I'll write my name on it." "Okay, good idea, thank you." Then he said, "Play for me." "Play for you? What now?" I mean, there were thousands of people rushing all around us in rush hour and everything. He said, "Play for me." So I said, "Okay." Now, the group I was with was called the Times Square 2. We were a musical comedy team. We played on all the major variety shows in the country and Carson and all those sort of shows. But the songs we did were from the 1920s. We did songs like "Ain't She Sweet," where my partner played the chords and I strummed, and then we switched around and I played the lead, and then we did a little dance. It was cute, but it was also brilliant, I might add. But I could hardly do that by myself with all these people around me. So I thought of another song we used to do called "I Know Where the Flies Go in the Winter Time. Each year in December, up the wall they climb, lay their eggs and fly away and come back on the 1st of May. So now you know where flies go on a cold and frosty morning." Angel was not impressed. He said, "I sing, you play." Well, I was not a great guitarist and I had no idea what he was doing, but before I could object in any way, he launched into some sort of pop song, Spanish, I guess. And I tried as best I could to accompany him, but I had no idea what I was doing. And for the first 30 seconds or so, he was so enamored with his own voice, he didn't notice. But when I played one wrong note too many, he stopped, turned around, put his hand on my guitar and said, "You know play for a living, you motherfucker." And he began to take his knife out. At that moment, I looked over his shoulder and I saw the cop car coming towards us. I had no idea if it was the same cops or not. But now I figured we'd established a relationship and I didn't want to give him up, Plus, he knew where I lived. In that moment, I noticed we were standing outside an ice cream store. So, I don't know what possessed me, but I grabbed hold of him and the guitar and I pulled us into the store. It was midsummer at this point. And so the store was packed with people licking their ice creams, I don't know whether Angel had ever been in an ice cream store before, but he said, "I don't want no fucking ice cream," and he pulled out his knife at me. And that second, through the front window, I saw the cop car pass. And I said, "Oh man, I forgot I don't have any money on me. Come on, we'll get the money right now, I swear. Come on, let's go." And I led him outside. Now there was an uneasy truce between us as we walked to my partner's place on St. Mark's Place. Every now and again, Angel would rattle the handle of the guitar case to remind me not to try anything. We eventually got to my partner's place, and I was terrified because usually when we came home from a gig, my partner went out to eat with his wife. I had no idea if he was home or not. So I went through the outside door and I pressed his combination. And after what seemed like eternity, he answered and I said, "Listen, man, don't ask any questions, just send down $25, okay?" And I walked back outside into the street and looked up at his fifth story apartment. And after what seemed like ages, the window opened and a hand came out holding something. And he let it go. And it was on a piece of string. And I watched it come down from the 5th floor, 4th floor, 3rd. And I grabbed hold of it and I tore it open to a piece of newspaper. I tore it open and inside were 2 10s and a 5. And I said, "Here, Angel." And I gave him the money and he gave me my guitar. And I turned around to thank him and he disappeared. I never did see Angel again. But that next week, I fixed the handle on my guitar case and I splashed my name right across the side.
Yeah.
And no one ever tried to steal my guitar again.
Yeah.